the church should not come across as a worldly institution. And I don't entirely lay blame at Javier's feet. I don't think he's some like crazy Satanist. I think he has unfortunately viewed the state of the church through a political lens, but they've made it very easy for him to do that. I'm trying to think what else I was going to follow up with that. What were we talking about? We talked about Javier and then other things.
We're talking about Javier, and now, like we said earlier, the, I guess, accusations of people like me and you being not real libertarians because we put faith above all else.
Yeah, I've actually thought so. Reading a lot about Tudor history lately, a massive accusation that was made against Catholics by the new Protestant English was you put Rome above England. And I think if someone said that to me as I was walking onto the flaming pyre, I would just say, yes, of course. Of course, religion comes above politics. But to imagine that the Catholic religion is incompatible with libertarianism is to say Tom Woods and Lou Rockwell are fake libertarians, as well as there are rumors, at least, that Murray Rothbard was going to convert before not long before he died, but sadly didn't. And I think that's probably true because the man did have a great respect for the scholastic tradition. You can see that in lots of his writings about economic history. And he tried to frame his natural law in a Thomistic way. I don't think he did a very good job because I think he built it on too many unsubstantiated assumptions. But essentially, yes, I think you got it absolutely spot on. I think I phrased it in exactly the same way. Libertarianism is a legal theory. It does not make any sort of claim on morals. And so what you can do and what you should do are very different things. And I think you're right. So many people who won't acknowledge that libertarianism is only a legal system think that they don't have any sort of moral assumptions, but ask them if a person should engage in same-sex intercourse, and they'll say, absolutely, of course. There's nothing libertarian that says you can't, and completely miss the question, I think. Anyone
Just goes
who
wrong over
does...
their head.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course. Like, I go further than that to say that people like that are completely politically inept and toothless. They actually don't threaten the status quo at all. Is because you can walk into a HR department, which is the main method of enforcement of the regime's ideology in an economy like ours. And you can go in there and say, I think everyone should be allowed to own a gun. I think the government shouldn't exist. I think we shouldn't have to pay taxes. And I say, okay, can you go back to your desk, please, and just do some fucking work? Go in there and say, I don't think we should be hiring homosexual employees. Oh, which one do you think is going to get more of a reaction? You could actually go, maybe not in America, but here you will go to court for that. It'll probably, hopefully, you'll get away with it in terms of you won't go to prison because of a very loose religious freedom protection we have, but you will lose your job and your name will be everywhere and you will be turned into a pariah. You will not do that if you say anything in regards to libertarian legal theory. So the actual status quo, they've made the people who enforce it have made the battle lines very clear. And if you aren't going anywhere near those lines, you're not fighting. You're just pretending to stand on some sort of podium and cheering yourself along while everyone else is just playing a completely different game.
Agreed. And like what you were saying earlier about how like of these movements that they don't care about hypocrisy, they don't care about, contradictions, they're like eating through. Are you familiar with Warhammer 40K by any chance?
Yeah, I've never played it. I've played lots of the RTS games. Dawn of War is one of my favorite games of all time. I don't know that much about the lore, but I'm at least vaguely familiar.
Are you familiar with the Tyranids?
Yes.
I was like just an unending wave and horde, just not caring, just like destroying, going through. It's similar like that, where it's like a piranha pit, if you will, where the moment you're swimming amongst the piranhas and you have like a light cut on you, they smell blood and go for it. And that's why I feel like people like, yourself and I and others, especially if you're not careful with who you're around, if you get cut and bleed, you're going to get eaten basically. And that's what I'm worried about a lot today, especially because, I'm starting to see an uprising like young Catholics, especially like the Thomists, putting their voices heard.
Mm.
But at the same time, it's always the same where, like you said, it's like statists like trying to shove that down. And although I agree in America is a lot more easier compared to Europe, I think both sides could be pretty difficult in the sense of, like you said, isolation, outcasting, basically this person's like the sheep, the black sheep. But it did
Yeah,
birth the phenomenon of anons, though. I do like that, I'd say.
yeah, we anonymous troll demons, according to Jordan Peterson. But what? I completely forgot where I was going to go. I had to get the Jordan Peterson joke in there. That threw me off.
I love the Jordan Peterson joke.
That was it. No, I got it. Yeah, I do like questioning whether Jordan Peterson was ever actually any good, but that's by the by. I've done it again. I've forgotten. Oh my god, I'm getting so old. What is wrong with me?
No, you're not old just yet.
I like annoying everyone at my job by saying, "Oh, I'm really getting on now. I'm 27 years old, and they just want to punch me."
Yeah, no, I'm
that
prior
was it.
service, so my body's just broken, and
Yeah,
I do
how
think
are
I'm
your
like
knees?
job. Yeah, I joke around. I'm like, I may be 22, but my body feels 42. Okay, give me a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah. I bet you go whenever you get out of a chair.
Yeah, the universal. Let's go. What are you saying though? Sorry.
I'm terrible. I keep forgetting. I think, yes, that was it. I was going to say another. I don't like to just like make any conversation about politics ragging on libertarians because, like I said, I am a libertarian. But where a vast majority of libertarians have a total misunderstanding of politics is the difference between hard and soft power. And I think they can only ever view tyranny through a lens of Stalin. And unless the KGB is going around shooting people and then throwing their wives and children in a gulag, then the government's not actually doing anything to impose their will on me, which is utter nonsense. I think there are greater protections of hard power in the US where you won't go to prison for speaking out against the status quo anywhere near as easily as you will in the UK. But it is just as easy for you to be completely disenfranchised and have your life ruined. And that, if we've known about this forever, everyone's called it cancel culture for the longest time. But I think libertarians don't understand cancel culture for a couple of reasons. One, cancel culture is a good thing. It's what you're getting cancelled for that's currently terrible. And two, that is an exercise of power, with power, the definition of power being the ability to influence people. Everyone is following the incentives set by the state and their court jesters in the private sector to toe the line. And just because a literal gun is not against your head does not mean that they will impose sanctions upon you, which will destroy you economically, physically, just the same way as if they were to go into your house, take all of your shit, and beat the crap out of you. There absolutely is a will that they want enforced, and it is not like the Second Amendment is not the line in the sand. They've completely just skirted around that, and the guns that everyone has have done nothing to protect it. It requires a much greater like. I don't think they understand the fight they're up against. It is against the established institutions of the most powerful country the world has ever seen. They need to be completely destroyed, and you aren't going to do that by purity spiraling everyone into only one particular mindset and one course of action that doesn't actually fight on the front lines of the established war. And I think that's just why it leaves them just sort of being politically embarrassed all the time. The only person who is doing it right is Javier Milei, who his hatred for leftism takes him to the point of basically foaming at the mouth in any interview he does. And if he gets into power, I really hope his general insanity, which in this case is a good thing, the guy is insane, but I hope that means he'll actually do what needs to be done. If you aren't using at least the Javier Milei strategy of going to the seat of power and overthrowing it, or at least I would say you could subvert these institutions, but the leftists are so good at subversion and countering it that it's kind of pointless. just be the strong man and use the strength for good. To imagine that power itself is bad is a ridiculous liberal assumption, which